All right, we're live. We are live. We are live. Hell of a card this weekend, Nibs. I've been looking forward to doing the show with you. Hard to remember a time where you had a card that had, at least 6 or 7 legitimate main events. Um, I guess we could just go top to bottom. I'm sure that the majority of people are interested in Bivol and Beterbiev, but there's so many good fights on this card, dude. I was thinking about bottom to top, top to bottom. Hey, Sus, I'm just hopping in the chat. How you doing, my boy? Good to see you.
What's good, family?
Um, he's got 116, 112 Beterbiev. He won good. All right, he's coming in hot, which I love. So let's break that fight down first. Since Jesus, the chat is always the third host, right? Dimitri Bivol winning a rematch over Arthur Beterbiev. I would say coming in with a slightly different approach early in the fight to try to stand his ground a little bit. And I think in the process, early in the fight, he lost some rounds. And in those rounds 7 through 11, where he started mixing in the combination punching with the footwork, it felt like he started to pull away just a little, not enough, to call it dominant by any means, but just enough to get the job done. I would say an incredible performance by Bivol, who is a hell of a fighter. It looked like he took his notes, he did his homework, he came in prepared, and just edged, one of the great fighters of his era.
I'll be honest with you, bro. I was more impressed with his comeback win than I was Beterbiev's first win. You know what I'm saying? I feel like we just got a master class in boxing put on by Bivol, bro. Yeah. What can you say wrong about it? That's the question.
I think what people are going to say, right? Because I've seen people obviously like Jesus M, um, essentially thinks it was the same fight and thought the Beterbiev won. I think the fact that Bivol came out and there was a certain intention on his punches early in the fight, where even if he was losing some of those rounds, I think I had it. I gave Bivol the first 3, and then I gave Beterbiev 4 through 6. Um, even in some of those rounds that he was losing, he was still landing harder shots than he would have at that point in the first fight. And I felt like by the time he was able to pick it up, even if he had been losing rounds, he had hit Beterbiev in a way that Beterbiev hadn't really been hit prior to that. And there were even stretches of the fight where he was backing him up to the ropes. I mean, I didn't think that that was going to be the tactic, but he just made it a more physical, I would say, offensively bad intentioned fight. Even though he was very tactical, I felt like he was really putting the zip on his shots, where it's like he was maybe pulling him just a little bit that first time.
I think if you look at it like this, right? If you look at who came forward, you think Beterbiev won, right? Because Bivol was more defensive in his game plan, but he was offensively defensive, right? It wasn't like he just sat there and was target practice. Now there was a little bit of that in the beginning of the fight, but then I felt like he took over. Like even though he was the one, with his back to the ropes or retreating, he was in control the entire time. Like I don't ever like the first fight. I felt like he fell out of control. Beterbiev overwhelmed him and took over. That didn't happen this time. You saw Beterbiev looking for answers towards the end of the fight, right? Answers he just couldn't come up with, and it felt like Bivol had figured out a way to weather this, not only weather the storm, right, but provide enough of his own offense to keep Beterbiev at bay, right? And for the people who like big punches, for people who like, oh well, he landed the harder stuff. A lot of that was blocked. A lot of that was parried. A lot of that wasn't clean. So yeah, do you give him credit just for swinging for the fences? Yeah, but not if it doesn't go over the fence. You know what I mean? Like it
Well,
just
let's talk about Beevol's defense, because I feel like that was a big piece of this fight that kind of carried him
yeah.
through. Where aside from really putting some offense on Beterbiev in that 7 through 11, he really was starting to catch a lot of that shit along the ropes. You know that thing Beterbiev does where he's punching while he's walking so he can pin you and then he sits down on something. He was blocking a lot of that and did a great job of changing directions so that he didn't get pinned. And it was just like everything was just a little better on his end. And with Beterbiev, it was still the same thing. Now Jesus M is asking, how does he slow stop counter Bivol's flurries? The thing is being able to pin Bivol down is very difficult. So it takes, I would say, a more aggressive body attack. But I think Bivol's speed and also his power, not that he's a massive puncher, but I think he hits hard. I think his speed and his power and his timing made it at times so that Beterbiev wasn't quite sure what to do.
Yeah, I just think that, for people who, more casual fans, we have some educated fans in our group. So I'm not saying, this directly to anybody, but, your more casual fan, they're looking at the bigger stuff, right? The bigger, harder landing punches. They're looking at the guy coming forward and they think he won the fight. I would just say, again, for even our fans, right? Pay attention to the little things, pay attention to the footwork, pay attention to, you know, really where and how those punches landed. Yeah, they looked cool, right? But were they really doing as much damage as we think they were? No. I mean, you saw the first fight. Bivol's face was a mess. You know what I'm saying? He came out pretty clean at the end of this one, right? So is that because Better Beef doesn't have as much on his punches, or is that because Bivol did a way better job at deflecting and parrying on his defense? You know what I
I
mean? I
I,
think it's
I
I
think
think it's the defense, bro.
it's the defense. It's his understanding of distance. It's his ability to just pull out of range so that when he catches it, he's catching just the tail end of your power. There's just a lot of things that he's doing at a very high level, and that's not to take anything away from Beterbiev. I think these are two of the very best light heavyweights in history, and I think they're two of the best fighters pound for pound right now. And like Fight Sport Talk says, I hope we get a third one. I mean, if there's ever been a fight that I want to see a third one on this one, I mean, I hope that they don't fuck around like Canelo and Triple G did and wait a couple of years because I don't know that Beterbiev has that couple of years. But man, I really hope we get to see, these guys finish this rivalry off for real.
I don't think that they're built that way. Like you see how quickly of a turnaround we got, right? Like this wasn't a 2 year wait. This was they ran this back immediately, right? And I think they're both of the same cloth, right? Like both of these guys want to be the best, and they know to be that guy, they've got to beat that other guy, right? Better Beef and Bivol both know, hey, this trilogy, that's going to cement my legacy, right? If I beat Bivol, if I beat Better Beef in this, you know, third fight, guess what? Go ahead, send me my bus, send me my jacket. It's over. You know what I'm saying? Because there's nobody better than us. And the fucked up thing is, you're gonna do the same thing to the guy that loses. You know what I mean? Because it's just that good. Let's be real clear. Neither one of these fights has been, you know, the hare and the tortoise. You know what I mean? Nobody's blowing each other out of the water in these fights. These are really close, competitive, high level shit. If you love boxing and not just fighting, this is the best you could get. This was boxing at its best on both sides. To Beterbiev's credit, right? Again, being stymied, defensively, which he's not used to having happen, right? That can get in a guy's head, and by the end of the fight, he looks like the guy who's losing. This was competitive the entire way. But Beterbiev was there. I just think Bivol did a much better job defensively this time around. I think that the judges got it right. I don't know about 116, 112. I had it 115, 113, if I'm keeping it a
I
buck.
had it 8-4, to be honest with you, bro. And there was some close rounds, so I think a 7-5 card is fine. But it just felt like that, like I said, that period round 7 through 11 where Bivol really swept the rounds. He just kind of pulled away from me. And again, we're talking about very small margins, of course. And then when we talk about the potential of a third fight, to some extent, it feels like, and maybe I could be wrong, but it feels like Bivol has kind of figured it out and that he could even do better. And it feels that Beterbiev has maybe hit a ceiling on his abilities with his age, the injuries. He's still a great fighter. He's still tremendous, but I don't know that he can do any better than he did. And I bet Bivol can do better than he did, actually. So, how do you see a third fight playing out? At least for me, my instincts tell me that Bivol will win it even wider. I think, like to add to what you said, Beterbiev's used to landing really clean, and guys get hurt and they go down because he hits like a motherfucker. But he can't get Bivol that clean, and then when he does, it turns out the guy can really take a punch.
I mean, when you throw in the fact that these are two of the best, like you said, if not the best we have in not only in the division today, but maybe in the division ever. You know what I'm saying?
Being
So,
Jesus, I'm not saying he looked old. I'm just saying he's hit a ceiling where I don't know that he can improve on the performance.
and I can't disagree with it. You know what I'm saying? So here's the thing: Bivol figured some shit out. Beterbiev, I kind of felt like he was fighting like he didn't have to figure anything out. Right? He was thinking, okay, I'm going to do the same thing I did the first time and get
He'll
the
wear
same results.
down.
Right. Now, what happens if he goes back to the drawing board and he figures some shit out? That gives us basically one of the. It's going to be, in my opinion, the third fight is going to be on some Rocky shit. This is going to be one of the best fights. Again, if you love high level boxing, I don't give a fuck who you think won either one of those first two fights. Tune in to round three. Here's the benefit we can all rejoice in, right? We get to watch it again because you can't tell me you weren't entertained. If you're a boxing fan, this was high level shit. You were entertained. And guess what? You get to see it again. Now we get to settle it once and for all. I'm Look, if you're asking me to make a prediction, I think we get more of what we saw tonight at an even more breakneck pace. So I think there are more punches thrown. I think there's a lot more body work that's done by Beterbiev the second time around to kind of maybe try to slow Bivol down a little bit. But then you got Bivol on his shit. So I think this is going to be one of the best fights we've seen in a trilogy in a long time.
The potential, in my opinion, to be one of the all-time great rivalries. Truly.
Bro, I mean you're put I mean you could put this up there with, Wilder Fury. You could put this up there, with Pacquiao Marquez. You
Canelo
know what I'm saying?
Golovkin.
I mean, you know what I mean? When it comes to trilogies, this is going to be some higher level shit. And to be honest with you, um, I think they got it right. I can't wait to watch it again. If I had to pick somebody, I'd probably flip a coin and it probably still be leaning Bivol, no matter which way it lands.
My guy, fake Nello. Um, let's move on to Joseph Parker. I would say having like a truly star-making performance in a one-punch knockout of Martin Bakole. Bakole last minute, right? It was going to be Daniel Dubois. That was one of the best fights in heavyweight boxing. But Bakole was about as good of a last-minute replacement as you could get. Probably the sixth or seventh ranked guy at heavyweight in any sanctioning body right now. Um, it just feels like Joseph Parker is really peaking right now. He's only 33 years old, even though he's been around, it seems like forever. But
Hmm.
he's coming into his own. He's put on a little weight, and it looks like he's athletic enough and strong enough and hits hard enough that a lot of these heavyweights, and fluid enough, by the way, that a lot of these heavyweights are just not going to be able to keep up.
I mean, we talked about this when we were doing the year-end rewards, right? Joseph Parker is you talking about comebacks of all comebacks, bro. I mean, again, we're talking about a couple years ago after his loss to Joe Joyce, which did not age well, by the way, right? People thought it was over for him. There are people talking about he should be retiring. He should get into management or coaching. You know what I'm saying? Even I said, hey, look, I got to see what he does next because it looks bad. This is about as great of a this is some Rocky level comeback shit. You know what I'm saying? Joseph Parker, I think, is not only deserves but is going to win a belt next. If Daniel Dubois isn't careful, bro, he's gonna catch some hell. But Coley's no slouch. You know what I mean? And the fact that
He's got
when
a
you look
fucking
at him,
chin on him.
yo, man, people need to watch out for Joseph Parker, bro. And I know he was kind of low man on the totem pole when it came to came to heavyweights, but he's beaten everybody they put in front of him. Not just win, but he's beaten them. He's earned those dubs. It wasn't like he was giving gift decisions. It wasn't like he was, I mean, he knocks Bacoli out.
And right to I guess almost get to his best win on top of the Wilder and the Zhang wins, in this moment. If Fury is truly retired, it's hard to argue that Joe Parker's not the number 2 heavyweight right now. I know Dubois has the title, but it just seems like with the length of time he's been in the game, the number of top guys that he's beaten and the wins he's getting right now, the way he's getting them, it feels like he's the number 2 guy right now.
People are going to put Dubois number two because of what he did to Anthony Joshua. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's just kind of what it is. And Anthony Joshua was I mean, we had all considered Anthony Joshua number three at the time that him and Dubois fight. So him and Dubois fight, and Dubois literally railroads him. You kind of have to put him in the number two slot until he loses it. You know what I'm saying? But Joseph Parker is on his ass. You know what I mean? Like a fresh pair of drawers. So look, I mean, Joseph Parker, bro, he's probably three or four in the division, depending on how you want to rank it. But whatever happens next, he should get one of the big three. Period.
The big 3 being
Either Usyk, if Fury, like you said, if Fury is wrapping it up, then it's Usyk, Dubois, or AJ. AJ's still a name, still a big money fight, right? He should get one of those three. If Fury is really going to come back, he should get one of those. So one of those big three for either payday or for belts or for all of it. Joseph Parker needs to get one of those fights next.
Well, I think it's not the order of the card, but I think it's a good way to segue into Agit Kabayel getting a really dominant stoppage win over Zhilei Zhang. In my opinion, one of the most slept on guys in boxing right now. I mean, we're coming off now 3 back-to-back stoppage wins over Makhmudov, Frank Sanchez, and now Zhilei Zhang, who had never been stopped prior to this and has fought Deontay Wilder and Joe Joyce and plenty of guys that hit like a motherfucker, and he's never been stopped. This guy stopped him because he can keep a pace. He doesn't load up on any one shot. It's a volume thing, and he's hitting these heavyweights with body shots and with a volume that they are not used to. It's a similar thing with Parker, where when you're a heavyweight right now and you have good fluid boxing skills and you can keep a pace, it's very difficult to beat you. Even though, as you can see, he's coming in undersized. He was probably 30, 40 pounds lighter than Zhang, if not more. I think he was more like 60 pounds lighter,
Right.
but he's still able to bully him around because Zhang is not used to a guy in his chest, hitting him in the body, pushing him around. He's not used to that.
I personally feel like here, probably a year and a half ago, we were talking about Big Bang Zhang like we are Joseph Parker right now, right? With the wins that he had gotten, the impressive way he had gotten them, we were talking about this dude should be next. Then he gets in there, and Parker, you know, outworks him. Now, mind you, he put Parker on his ass a couple of times, but what's been Zhang's biggest problem? His gas tank. He doesn't have one. For the love of God, he can't find gas to put in a tank.
And he looked like he was in decent shape, and he came out and was trying to match Kabayel's pace. And then by the 4th round, it was just so clear that he couldn't. That even when he dropped Kabayel, because he's one of the best punchers in boxing. Even when he dropped him, Kabayel hops right up and is like, "All right, I'm back at it," and just presses him again. You could tell, even though he just dropped him, it's only a matter of time now before he really folds. Part of why I said that Adam Parker versus Kabayel, I know that Parker is a guy who's going to be looking for the Usyk and the Dubois fight because he wants a world title. But this to me is like one of the best fights in heavyweight boxing right now. Um, and I feel like Kabayel deserves it. Now, I don't know that Parker would want to take that fight, but fucking A, I would love to see that. That's one of the best fights out there at heavyweight.
If I'm Parker, I wouldn't do it for a number of reasons. One, this kid's dangerous,
Huge
but
threat.
yeah, but he's earned the right to get, like I said, one of those top three guys, right? So it's
So
like,
is Kabayel though for me.
maybe, you know what I mean? And the reason I say that is because you look at how many big name guys Parker has fought over the last couple of years. He's got a murderer's row of guys, right? He was fighting Deontay Wilder off of the Fury trilogy. Ain't nobody really want that smoke still with Deontay at that time. Nobody, everybody was still looking at him as kind of like, that right hand is still a bitch. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
He came in there, walked right through it. And then, we see, Wilder's kind of had, he's fallen off a cliff. I think Zhang kind of fell off a cliff last night. You know what I mean? Um, I'm not saying you know, he's out of contention later on down the line, but unless they find a miracle cure for his gas tank,
Yeah,
I think it's a
the
wrap for him.
word's out. The word's out. If you step to him, if you maintain a pace, Parker took one approach where, okay, I'm going to box, I'm going to move. And it was interesting to watch Kabayel come out and start that way, but then completely shift gears. And you could tell it caught Zhang off guard. Like, why is this guy stepping at me? Isn't he worried about my power? And he wasn't worried about the power. He was thinking, if I can bully this guy around a little bit and make it uncomfortable, he's not going to hit as hard.
Hell of a chin. You know what I mean? If you got balls in the chin, we say this all the time. If you got balls in the chin, that's going to take you a long way in boxing. Taking into account that you've also got extremely high skills. Let's take nothing away from Kabayel. Yeah, do I think Zhang is falling off a cliff? Yes, but do I think Kabayel pushed him off that motherfucking cliff?
I think he
That's also
pushed
the
him
same.
off, bro. I think he pushed
Yeah,
him off because I thought when Jean came out in that first round, he won the first round clean and he looked sharp. He was throwing his hands looked fast. I was like, okay, he's here to, keep some level of a pace. He's not going to throw 13 punches around in this fight, but just wasn't something he could maintain. What do you want to see next from Kabayel? If he doesn't get Parker, Dubois, or Usyk, which are the big fights, it does feel like he's earned something significant.
I mean, I would say this: if him and Parker don't run it next, Parker gets Dubois. If Usyk and Fury happens, right? I wouldn't be mad at him getting, an AJ type of fight. I wouldn't be mad at him
He smoked
getting,
Joshua, bro. Fuck.
bro. Like, I
He'd
mean,
smoke him.
a big name payday, right? Maybe he gets Garcia. You know what I'm saying? Who's just kind of just been sitting around getting fat. We'll see. But even Big Baby Miller. You know what I'm saying? He's had he's become interesting again as far as a name and a payday. Give him one of those guys, right? You know, I hate to say stay busy, but give him one of them guys, and then when the top three and four figure some shit out, obviously he's the next man up. I think he's
Yeah.
he's on the bubble. He's that bubble guy right now.
He's fourth man. He's
Yeah.
fourth man. And that's a tough place to be, but he definitely earned his spot there. And I think, once Parker and Dubois and Usyk can all mix it up to some extent, I think you're right. I think that he'll be next man up.
And to be honest with you, you know, I wouldn't say it was the upset of the night. Excuse me. I think that was, Adames and Shiraz, but I think it was the surprise of the night. I think it was the way he closed the show is what was so dominating to me. So I love the dude. I think the sky's the limit. I think we might be talking about him as the new coming up pretty soon. So we'll see.
And listen, like I said, knocks out Mahmoudov, knocks out Frank Sanchez, stops Gile Zhang. Like 8 years ago, beat a prime Derek Chisora. I know a lot of guys beat Chisora, but he had to be the real thing to beat Chisora in 2016 or whenever it was that they fought. Nibs, I'm going to get some water real quick. Why don't you start up on Shakur Stevenson's stoppage win over Josh Padley? Last minute replacement, Josh Hadley, by the way, took a lot of balls to do what that kid did.
It did, and we talk about this all the time, right? Support your local boxing. That isn't just here in the United States. It's everywhere, right? Let's be really clear. Padley's a gym guy. You know what I mean? He's a gym rat. He's a club fighter at best up to this point. You know, wasn't really on anybody's radar. He took a fight last minute, took an opportunity, and you know what? Probably changed things, changed the trajectory for his family. Going forward. I'll give Pedley this. Obviously, he was completely overmatched. You know what I mean? There was no way he was going to come in and beat Shakur Stevenson. Shakur Stevenson was just far more skilled than he is, and it showed. But again, if you got balls and you got a chin, that can do some things for you. And early on, he did have a chin. It was actually the body work that did him in the end. So again, hats off to Padley for taking the fight, but to Shakur Stevenson's credit, what do they always say? You do a bum like you treat a bum like a bum. You know what I mean? And he did what he was supposed to do.
I think he absolutely did what he was supposed to do. I think one of the things that I was impressed about was that, obviously Padley was working an electrician shift 2 days prior to being in Saudi Arabia, and he showed up and he didn't act like a bum. He acted like a
Right.
guy who showed up to compete. He let his hands go when he had his moments, and I think he made the fight quite a bit more difficult than I think Shakur wanted it or expected it to be. I think he sees a guy with 4 knockouts. And what he got was a guy who genuinely competed, was not on the level at all, was not on Shakur's level. Shakur ultimately beat him with one hand, right? He clearly hurt his left hand at some point in the fight, which we'll get to in a second. But um, I just wanted to give Padley his props. It takes a lot of balls to do what he did. And I think he'll get more fights out of that. And I think that he is a good fighter. I would not surprise me if he got like a European title in the next year or two.
Again, last minute guy coming in way not on the level. But again, he didn't come when we were talking about this in the chat while we were watching the fight. He didn't look like a guy who was just there to get his check, right? He at least made it look like he thought he could win the fight or wanted to, at least. He wasn't just in there collecting rounds to get his name out there, and he just got beat by a far superior dude. And you know what? Last minute, you get that nasty body work. Hey, you know, he did the best he could do. He got his payday. Hats off to Shakur for doing what he needed to do. Looked impressive when he was supposed to. Now, hopefully, we can get him in there with somebody serious.
The one thing I want to talk about with Shakur's hands, and by the way, shout out to everybody in the chat. Appreciate everybody. Leave your comments. Um,
Yeah, I'm on my phone device, so I can't see the chat. Sorry, guys, I'm not responding. I gotta leave that up to Dakota.
I think that Shakur hurting his hand in this fight, we've seen a decrease or a decline in his offensive output in the last couple of fights. And I think that the elephant in the room is that there's no doubt that those two things are related, right?
Right.
He's being selective with his shots because he's saving his hands for the totality of a 12-round fight. And I think that it's going to limit his offensive output, and it is going to make it harder to beat certain types of pressure fighters. That being said, he's got that Rigondeaux type ability where I think he could stink anybody out one-handed on any given night, and that may be what he has to do. But do you think that that's something that could affect his career in some kind of way? Floyd, when he was Money Mayweather, fought a certain kind of way, and then, or when he was Pretty Boy Floyd, fought a certain kind of way, and then Money Mayweather with the hand problems was much more defense first. What are your thoughts on Shakur's hands?
He's got to do exactly that. You just hit it on the nail on the head. He's got to figure out the Floyd method, right? You, to
Well, it
still
seems
be
like
able
he
to do.
has. It seems like he has, but people want excitement from him, and he's not giving that
Right.
to him because he has to be careful.
But here's the thing: the two things you need the most in boxing are your hands. So you've got to be smart if you want to have a long career. You've got to be smart about it, but you can still be entertaining. You know what I mean? And not be out there pounding away at guys, right? Look, I mean, for all the shit people want to talk about Floyd, he was one of the most entertaining fighters we had. Why? Because you knew he wasn't going to necessarily knock everybody out, so that gave them a chance. But then he get out there and he just, he did what he does.
The thing is, though, some of his fights fucking stunk, and I think that
Eh,
people are gonna
eh,
say that.
eh. I
Some of
don't.
them did, bro.
I never looked at a Floyd fight and was disappointed in what he did. Right. I know the big fight everybody was mad about is Pacquiao. You can't even blame that on Floyd. Pacquiao, he threw more punches than Pacquiao did. But I'll say this: he figured out a way to dominate fights without having to be dominating. Right. You know what I'm saying? So if you get what I'm saying, he didn't have to come in and pressure you. He didn't have to come in and knock you out. He didn't have to come in and throw 100 punches around, but he still dominated the fight. Shakur's just got to figure out how that works for him. I'm not saying he has to do exactly what Floyd does, but he has to figure out a way to still preserve his hands, but still put on a show, right? Because let's face it, he doesn't have knockout power. He's got, I wouldn't say he's pillow fisted, but he's not knocking everybody out. Joshua Padley, is a club guy. He got away with one there. He's not knocking out the tanks of the world. He's not knocking out the guys at 140. You know what I mean? If he moves up, he's got to figure it out, and I think he can. I think he's a superior boxer, and he's
I
got
my
the boxing
I think
skills.
my point is that he has figured it out. The problem is that I think people, when I'm hearing on the telecast and what people's expectations are, they want him to apply pressure and to assert himself in a way offensively that he's not doing, and I just don't think he's going to because of his hands. That doesn't necessarily mean he can't beat everybody, but if everybody's out here waiting for Shakur to give them like this classic highlight reel, I just don't think that's going to happen. I think he's more of a Rigondeaux type fighter.
Yeah, if you're expecting him to turn into Tank overnight, it's not going to happen, right? That's just not going to happen. So he's not Tank. He's not, he's not going to give you these highlight reel knockouts. One, I don't think he could, even if he was fighting like that, didn't have the hand issues. So you just be happy with what version he's giving you, right? He's giving you something else. You know what I mean? He's giving you high level boxing. If he stops a guy, it's going to be on accumulation, not one punch knockouts. Stop begging for everybody to be the same.
What does he do if it's not Tank? Because I don't get the sense that Tank is going to go out of his way to fight him. Lightweight is a fun division right now. You got guys like Morataya, you got William Zapata. There is talent at this weight right now. Um,
I mean, I would love for Floyd to get healthy, Schofield, to get healthy, and for them to actually run that fight. You know what I mean? I was actually looking forward to that. I thought it was, I know a lot. Not everybody was super hyped about it, but I thought that was going to be a competitive fight. So I'd like to see them run that. Um, if you can't get Floyd, move up. Move up to 140. Maybe him and Haney can run it at 140. If Haney sticks around, because that's again big money fight.
I think the only other fight, and we don't know if he's retired or not, but I still think a fight with him and Vasily Lomachenko at lightweight is like a passing of the torch moment in boxing history that I think would really be a great fight. It would obviously be very tactical, but I think the Lomachenko is going to be one of the few guys that can like match wits with Shakur. Should he
That'd
continue
be a
fighting?
that'd be a cop out for me because you pass on the biggest money fight. Now you want to take Shakur because you know you're not going to get knocked out. I don't know if I really want to see it. And to be honest with you, I think we got a version of that when he fought Haney. You know what I mean? And I thought he beat Haney, to be honest with you. So I think that would be just 2.0 of that. But you're right. I mean, as far as legacy is concerned, that's a great fight to have on your ledger. I'm ready for Lomachenko to ride off into the sunset, bro. If I'm being honest with you.
Why? I'm genuinely curious because he was great against Cambosis. He was great against Haney. I don't see, I know he's had some injuries, but it seems like if he's healthy and he wants to continue, I feel like he's still a viable guy.
If you claim you're one of the best, fight the guy who's the best. The guy who's the best called you out, and you said no. And they offered him a shitload of money. It wasn't like they offered you some pittance. You know what I mean? They didn't offer you Lamont Roach money. They offered you a a big ass bag, the biggest, of your career. And he said, "Nah, cool, I'm gonna ride out." All right, I'm cool if you come back and fight Shakur. That'd be great. But at some point, you and Tank need to rumble. If that's, you know what I mean? Because Lomachenko has far long been said he's one of, if not the best fighters out there, despite the losses he has on his ledger, because he feels like he's gotten robbed a couple of times. So prove it. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, and again, I think the Tank fight didn't happen because of this back issue that he's had, and I think that he just didn't feel like he was in a position to pull the trigger. That's why they've been waiting on whether or not he's going to retire, as he's trying to figure out, if his body can still hold up to professional boxing at this point.
Then ride out. If it wasn't good for Tank, I don't want to see it against Shakur. If it was, and that's legit. Like if your back is that bad, then ride off into the sunset. Nobody's going to be. I mean, you're going to be in the Hall of Fame. Either way, I'm good with it. But it's for Shakur. I think it's either tank or move up, bro. That's what my in my humble opinion as a fan. That's what I would like to see.
Let's get into the very strange draw between Hamza Shiraz and Carlos Adames. Not the fight I expected at all. I mean, it came out after that. It looks like Shiraz broke one of his hands at the midway point of the fight, and you could see his offensive output definitely dipped down in that second half. Wasn't that high in the first half, anyways, but it was a strange performance from Hamza. He's been so explosive and fast and powerful in all these fights we've seen, and Adames just showed up and had a really solid workman-like performance, closed the distance, worked the body, and we just didn't see that intensity from Hamza. Hard to tell what percentage of that is from the injury, but what were your thoughts on this one?
I thought Adames got robbed. I thought he won the fight. You know what I mean? And I thought it was clear, to be honest with you. The 118, 110, yikes. But to for this to go out a draw, I wasn't with it. I thought there was a clear winner. I thought Adamas clearly won the fight. I thought Hamza, yeah, no matter what reason, he wasn't doing his normal thing. He lost the fight. He wasn't throwing enough. He was getting, and hats off to Adamas. Like he took advantage of the fact that, yeah, maybe he had a compromised fighter in front of him, but that's not his fault, right? You got to get in there and
Right.
fight your fight. And Adamas took full advantage of it. He looked really good, you know what I mean, albeit against an injured fighter. And hats off to Shiraz because he could have came in there, complaining, yeah, I didn't get the win because of this. Nah, he was like, hey, look, you know,
Mhm.
broke hand don't matter. I should have still won. I should have found a way, and I didn't. And you look at his face and you look at Adamas at the end of the fight. Hey, bro, he lost that fight. They gave him a draw to keep him
So
undefeated.
scoring it on the fly, I think I had it 6-6. Again, there was some sleepy rounds on this one where Hamza kind of controlled the range, and then I think I had it 6-4 through 10, and then Hamza closed the show pretty strong in those last two rounds. I thought he won the last two rounds clean. Those are probably the cleanest rounds he won. But in general, one of the big differences in this fight, it looked like, was Adames didn't look like the moment was getting to him in the same way. And I think that that's where experience really matters. You know what I mean? When the moment's not getting to you and then you have an injury and you kind of maybe let it get to you just a little bit, those are the differences in experience.
He fought like a champion, right? When you're a champ, you show up. You don't make excuses. You don't let the moment get too big. And he's a pro. Adamas is a pro's pro. You know what I mean? He got in there. He did his job.
Retains
And
his title, by the way.
I thought to me, I thought he won 7-5. You could call it a four. I'll be honest with you. I thought it was that clean. I thought even the fights, even the rounds that were close, I think he did enough to get him to get past. And I thought Hamza was doing too little, and all no matter how impressive he might have looked in spurts, it wasn't enough for me. It wasn't enough at all. And I think consistency wins fights, right? Adamus was consistent throughout the entire fight, and to me that was telling. And I thought he got robbed of a decision. Okay, cool. It gives Shiraz a reason to run it back. Maybe they run it back and he picks up the win. But good scrap. for Adames. I think hats off to him for doing a great job, and we'll see what happens.
Adam, if I'm not mistaken, this was the WBC middleweight
Hmm.
title. Um, yeah, again, Hamza just not busy enough. We've just seen him be so impressive and dominant, but that's that there's different levels, and you get up to a certain level, and how you looked against, a region really good British regional guy is not how you look against a world champion who doesn't do anything, I would say, that like wows you, but he does everything well. He doesn't do anything badly, and and
And
he
here's
and
the
he,
thing:
he's not intimidated
you,
by your power and your size.
you're not going to be able to hit him with one punch and he go away.
Mhm.
Right? Even if you knock Carlos Adames down, he's going to get back up and get right back in your chest because that's what veterans do. That's what champion level fighters do. He's at that level. You know what I mean? Now we can rank him as far as we want to, but he's on the level. You got to give him that, and he proved it. And I think that Hamza has some hard shit to go through. He's got some lessons to learn, but I think we'll see it. I think again, the way he handled the loss or the draw, I think he's going to come back, bro. And I don't think we have too much to worry about there.
Listen, he's a really talented young fighter who took a risky fight, and it wasn't his best night. And I don't think that that disqualifies him from having a good career in the future. Um, let's talk about one of my favorite, if not my favorite, fight of the night. Virgil Ortiz getting a really fun decision win over Israel Madrimov. Madrimov losing two close decisions back to back to Terrence Crawford and Virgil Ortiz. Got to respect the balls and the skill on Madrimov, who was super tricky in this fight. But in the mid rounds, Virgil just found his moments and started to gradually make the fight more and more physical. It was a slow boil, and then by 7 and 8, he was really pushing Madrimov around, and it became a firefight. And Madrimov couldn't quite hang in that type of a fight. Um, Virgil's a star, bro. Like Virgil's a star, and Virgil's taking hard fights. He's taking the kind of fights that we as fans want to see. I really like what I'm seeing from Virgil 2.0 up here at 154.
I mean, what's that? Put him at 23, 24 dubs. You know what I mean? No losses. You know what I mean? And you look at his resume. I mean, it's he's not got Hall of Famers or nobody on there, but there's a lot of dudes on there
But dude,
that
Boachuk and Madrimov back to back is pretty brutal.
that's what I'm saying, bro. He's got some killers on his resume. It's not like he's got some that guys, that are just throwaway. Hey, I'm gonna just take this fight and get my money. You know what I mean? Thomas DeLorme not too long ago was a world class fighter. You know what I'm saying? Top level world class guy. So even his last three guys, and DeLorme could probably still give just about anybody some business. You know what I mean? So I'm with it, bro. I think people are sleeping on him. I don't know why. Your average fan probably doesn't know as much about him as they should. I think he's earned a legit, you know, unification fight next. I think that's
So
what's got to be next, bro.
Weed is saying he doesn't think he's ready for Bud. Well, first of all, Bud is 190 pounds or whatever right now, so he's never going to be ready for Bud. But Madrimov had a very close fight with Crawford, and of course, styles make fights. But I think one of Virgil's talents, and Keyshawn Davis did this against Baranchik, is finding little moments in an awkward fight where a guy's moving around a lot and making him count,
Hmm.
landing that hard body shot clean that's going to pay off around down the road, taking those little moments where he stops for a second and throwing your combinations, just capitalizing on small moments. And it's very clear that he's a devastating puncher. I think that if Crawford was to stay at 154 at the moment, that'd be the fight that I'd want to see him take. But for Virgil, there's so many options. I mean, Murtazaliev stopped Tim Tszyu a couple months ago. We got friend of the channel, Jesus Ramos. It's such a great division. And Virgil is taking the best of the best right now.
I'd like to see him and Charlo run it, bro. I want to see him and Charlo run it. I wouldn't be, I mean, of course, I love watching Sebastian Fundora. I'm a fan. I've been on that train for a while, even though he frustrates the shit out of me sometimes. I'd love to see Fundora and Virgil Ortiz, but I would love to see him and Charlo run it, bro. I just because I want to see one. I just want to see Charlo get back in the mix and see what he's got. What he's got left, if anything. But if that can't happen, give me him. Ortiz and Fundora, bro. I think that would just be. I don't know, man. I think that would be everything we want it to be.
I think the boogeyman, and of course he's not the biggest name, but this guy Bakram Mortazaliev that beat Tim Zoo, this guy's a killer, bro. And Virgil just took two killers back to back that aren't the biggest names. If he wants to get his hands on a world title and have a classic doing it, I think that's the fight to take.
Backroom's a cold motherfucker, man.
Yeah,
Like that's a big ass piece of the pie to bite off. The reason I would say Sebastian, I mean, Sebastian's got the full title of WBC. Virgil's got the interim joint. I love to see them get it popping. But again, plus I just think that would be a fun ass fight. But yeah, I mean, shit, Bakram against anybody really in the division would be interesting to me. I'd love to see him again. Um, hell, I wouldn't be mad if Virgil Ortiz getting Tim Zooed. Now that Tim Zoo's kind of knocked down a couple of pegs, and see him run it with him. I mean,
I
these are
just think
all
that
fun
Virgil
fights,
would
bro.
smoke him right now. With Tim's got to get some quality wins for me to really be interested. I'm just putting it into the universe right now. I think that Virgil Ortiz and Jesus Ramos in like 2 years, it's going to
Hmm.
be a pay-per-view type fight.
Bro, I'll be honest with you. You give me Virgil Ortiz with anybody right now. I'm buying that fight. Like, and I don't say that often. I'm buying Virgil Ortiz at this point, bro. Not just watching it. I'm not just finding some place to watch it or going to the bar and watch it. I'm paying to see Virgil Ortiz at this point, bro. That's how impressed I am with him. Put money on him.
Last fight of the card, Callum Smith getting a gritty veteran type win over unbeaten Olympian Josh Buatsi. You know, I've heard a lot of people kind of talk down about Callum Smith and his level because Canelo basically dominated him and Beterbiev stopped him the way he stopped everybody else before Bivol. Um, he's also gotten some of the most vicious knockouts I've ever seen in all my time in boxing. There's been a couple of Callum Smith knockouts that are just straight up scary. And if you're not a
Hmm.
guy that's of a certain level, he's dominated you. You know what I mean? Like guys like the Castillo guy that he got the knockout, he dominates a certain level of guy. He's only lost to the absolute best. And I think what Bawatsi, there's been so much promise and hype around him from getting the medal in the 2016 Olympics. But as a pro, it's just been such a slow development. And it looks like he just doesn't have some of the best habits defensively. He's very hittable. Um, Bawasi showed a lot of balls, man. Callum Smith was really putting it on him. And then towards the end of the fight, it looked like Buatsi might actually stop Callum Smith to the body. So it was a brutal back and forth fight. But the bottom line was Callum Smith had the more experience, ultimately had the more skill because a lot of things weren't going in his favor, like the age,
Hmm.
the mileage on the odometer. There wasn't much in his favor, but he was a more skilled guy, and he got the win. He's still a guy at this weight. Like I don't think he's a guy that will beat Bivol at any point. He's not going to beat Beterbiev in a rematch, but he's a guy at this weight. He's the sixth man. And if you're not the absolute best of this era, I think Callum Smith beats you.
I think he's the highest level gatekeeper we have in the sport right
Yeah.
now, right? And I'm not
And you
saying
got to
that
put
as
respect on that. People talk about him like he's a
right.
bum.
Yeah, be very clear. I'm not saying that in any way to disrespect Kellen Smith.
Yeah.
I'm saying that if you think you're a boxer, if you think you're high level, if you think you can do this, and you think you can get in there with these top guys, fight Callum Smith. You know what I mean? And I'm not necessarily needing you to beat him. Just look good. Okay, I'll trust you. Fight Callum Smith and get your ass whipped. Well, we told you. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you want to fuck around and find out? Callum Smith's the guy, bro. He's one of those guys that he's like a Joe Smith higher level than that, right? He's a guy who's a lunch
Yeah.
pail kind of guy.
And
He's
Joe
gonna
Smith
come
was a
in,
world champion.
right? And we're talking about he's not, like you said, he's not super exciting, but he does everything well. You know what I'm saying? He's got a lot of tools in his bag. Is he, the most athletic? Is the superstar of the sport? No, but he's going to give everybody work, no matter who you are. I mean, unless your name's Canelo, which is, that's a whole different conversation.
Yeah, and to me, this was a super impressive performance. Of course, Buatsi had some defensive issues that he's always had, but at this level, it really showed up more. Um, but we also saw the vulnerabilities from Callum Smith. In a fight, he's winning. He's getting hurt to the body at the back end of the fight, and so while Buatsi's probably the number 2 light heavyweight in England right now, the
Hmm.
types of fights I want to see for Callum Smith, he's really like trying to take tough fights. Like I would love to see him and David Morrell. I would love to see him in Vosdik.
Mm.
I think that all of those fights are super appealing. If he wants to compete, he certainly earned his place to do it. But to me, him and Morrell is a real firefight, and I think it'll be a genuine test for Morrell. Like, what is the trajectory of your career going to be? Because if he's not what we thought he was, like we said, Callum Smith will beat him.
I think David Morrell still is everything we thought he was. I just think
I
David
do
Bene,
too.
I think David Benavidez is more than we thought he was, which is crazy because we already had him on a pedestal, kind of. You know what I'm saying? I think
Mhm.
David Benavidez is just more than we gave him even the credit that we were giving him for, and I think David Morrell is right there. Like I think he's right there, bro. Like maybe we gave him too much credit. You know what I'm saying? And now he's got to figure some shit out. But yeah, a fight against Callum Smith, especially if you get an impressive dub against him, puts you right back into where you need to be.
Listen, Weedy, you got a good point, bro. Because the thing is, if Beterbiev and Bivol are going to do a third fight, that means another fight cycle for both guys. That's not Benavidez' next fight. Maybe Callum Smith. While I think we all kind of know how that fight goes, maybe that's the best opponent available to him at the moment while he waits it out to see who wins this rivalry.
I mean, to be honest with you, until you put Benavidez in there with either one of those guys, Bivol or Beterbiev, I'm taking him. Right? I'm not betting against
You
David
think you think
Benavidez
Benavidez
pretty
beats
much ever
Bivol?
again. Not right now. Not based off of what I saw last night. I think he actually has a better chance against Beterbiev, and I'm doubling down on that. But I wouldn't bet against him. Let me put it that way. In my mind, I'm taking Bevel, but uh, in my heart, bro, I look. Dave, David Benavidez is one of those guys. He shut me the fuck up. I thought David Morrell was going to beat him. And then I saw that performance. And yeah, Morrell had his moments. But I said, yo, bro, every time I've bet against this dude, he's made me look bad. I'm not doing it anymore. Fuck it.
And
Even
and
if
and
I,
just fighting killers, bro. He's like him, Virgil, Bam. These guys are these are the young American fighters that are really taking the absolute best fights available to them. And light heavyweight is, while there's not a lot of guys, there's exciting matchups to be made with some of the best fighters in the sport. And if Callum Smith is his off fight, I mean, you know what I mean? It would be his off fight relative to the fights he's been taking. But I think that that's a matchup that makes sense while we wait out the better Bivol rivalry.
I'm glad that I was wrong about David Benavidez. Let's put it that way. And I think that he's going to be the man in the sport, not just at light heavyweight, in the sport in the next year or two, or whenever Canelo decides to hang it up.
This has been a hell of a show, Nibs. Great chat today. We always appreciate you guys. Like I always say, you guys are the third host. This was a great card, man. It was long, but it was a solid weekend of boxing where you could kind of sit down, tune in and out as you please, with 6, 7 main events on the same card. Um, and I think one of the beautiful stories about a guy like Josh Padley is he had to get local support to get to the high level British level, to get to the European level, and then to get to his dream fight against Shakur Stevenson, after working a fucking a union electrician shift. But Nibs, before we wrap this one up, as we always do, talk about the importance of supporting local boxing.
Well, I mean, you hit a lot of it right on the head right there. We got a guy who has a day job. Next thing you know, he's fighting one of the best fighters, period. This is a pound for pound guy. How imagine going back to work the next day, right? At your electrician job, your plumbing job, whatever it is you do, and saying, "Hey, yeah, I just fought the number so and so dude pound for pound, and yeah, I might have lost, but shit, I just fought that guy." I want to also point out that supporting local boxing isn't just guys in the ring. There's this guy I know, pretty intelligent, halfway decent looking. You know, uh, you know, he's the second best looking thick boy we had, that I've ever seen. He's got this show. It's some of you guys might have heard about it. It's called Slip and Weave. They do excellent work over there. But you know what? It started in this guy's basement. It started in this guy's living room. It started in this guy's bedroom. Now, he's doing Fight Life series with a world champion, world class athlete, Shadeja Green. You guys know him. He's sitting right there. The support for that comes from you guys in the chat. Comes from, people out in the world, just showing love, right? Everything is homegrown in the sport of boxing. It isn't just the guys in the ring. It's us giving you the content. It's the guy, us, being able to bring out people like Shadeja Green. We were one of the first. You were one of the first. I'll give you your flowers, bro, to really be on the Shadeja Green train. Now look at it. There are probably a million people who are trying to get her attention and her pull, and you don't have to. It's already there because you started early, right? Believe in the boxers, the people in the sport, show up for those that are, again, working the concession stands, the electrician who gets his opportunity. Show up for those guys before they get to Shakur Stevenson, and the payoff is amazing.
Hell of an episode, my friend. We will be back next week. Thanks again to everyone in the chat. Peace.